Welcome to the Music Pro Services podcast. And on this episode, we have the amazing artist, and not only amazing artist, but amazing teacher, an amazing person who's going to be a semi-regular on this podcast. Welcome, Amla. Amla Periakarpan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It
Great.
Seems like deja vu, doesn't it?
It does. Great intro. I wouldn't have thought of that. Appreciate that.
Well, yeah, you're most welcome. I'm only telling the truth. All right, Amla, we'll just get stuck straight into it.
Yeah.
We're both teachers, we're both artists, but what is it that makes a great music teacher? We've gone through a fair bit, and what is it that makes us a great teacher or a good teacher? What's the difference between a good and a great teacher? What do you reckon?
That's such a big question.
It is such a big question. I know. And I'm going into my notes too as well, because it is quite a big question, and everyone's different, right? And every teacher's different.
That's right. We all bring, I guess each teacher has their own personality traits, set of skills.
Sure does.
And delivery. I mean, I feel like the delivery. Let's talk about the delivery.
I like that.
That's something I've learned over the years as a teacher. I think it's important to record yourself if you want to become a great teacher.
Yeah.
It's all about reflection and with delivery of how you express yourself to a student, how you explain something to a student. You've got to bring some kind of enthusiasm, or they've got to see the joy. So right, spot on.
That is often forgotten, especially when you've got a lot of students.
Yes.
And you have to remind yourself of that, because you're accountable for their journey, aren't you?
Yes.
As a teacher, that's such an important part, to be enthusiastic and be more enthusiastic than they are.
That's right.
Because then they look at you and they get inspired. I've got a few students who come in, and I really make an effort to be as enthusiastic, with all of my students, but with some of them I'm extra enthusiastic because they're introverts. So it takes a bit more to get them going, but once they're on board and once they get going into the lesson, it's a different thing, and they're very happy at the end of the lesson. But I think you're right, the delivery, and I think the adapting of different personalities.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. I've, like yourself as well, we've all got students with different traits and different personalities, and I think it's very important to be in tune with that person as an individual, whether it's whatever the age, whether you're teaching kids or you're teaching adults or teenagers, you have to be very in tune and in direct alignment with them almost, I think. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I completely agree. And like you said, each person comes with different learning capabilities as well. So
definitely,
I guess the first part is getting to know the student and
figuring
out
I
guess just trialing them with different ways of learning, different activities, seeing which ones they adapt to more quickly and how we can improve or finesse the ones where they can.
So what happens when you hit a brick wall, like with a student? What happens then?
Could you give me an example of brick wall?
For example, a student, and particularly in kids, where they become a bit bored within the lesson, and I think, and you can see it in their eyes, or they lose the attention span.
Yes.
So there's from one extreme to the other. How do you deal with that? Because you've done single lessons, but you've done classroom lessons as well.
That's right.
So what happens when you get that dynamic?
Depends. Look, so in a single lesson, it depends on the student. Sometimes I feel like there's something going on in their personal life, and I go, like it happened the other week actually. I could tell a student wasn't focused on the piece that I'd set for her, and I sensed that she was stressed about her exams. She's in year 12, and I just said to her, you know what, why don't we just play, how would you feel about playing duets for the remainder of the lesson? We can play some classical pieces. And she said, oh, that would be great. She goes, I don't have to think so much. That would be fantastic. And then she relaxed.
Yeah.
So that was an example.
So you've taken the pressure off.
And I didn't realise it took me a while to gauged that's what was happening.
Yeah.
And with the boredom, yes, in classroom music, there's a lot of boredom. When I was classroom teaching, I was planning 12 to 15 activities for 1 hour.
That's a lot of activities, isn't it?
The attention span has dropped a bit. Occasionally I'll try and get them to breathe, or I'll crack a joke just to bring them back in.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep that enthusiasm. Even if they're not enthusiastic, I try and keep the energy up.
Yep.
Especially with teenagers.
Yeah, you're right. And on the other side, like you got your different levels in the classroom. Speaking in the classroom, you got your different levels of students. They're at different levels. So you're sort of teaching a blanket sort of syllabus, but there are students who are at, a bit more enthusiastic, or they're academically at a different level, or they're not too interested in what you're teaching. Others are more interested. What happens in that sort of, how do you come to a happy medium?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, and I actually experienced this. I've started teaching, as you know, English to adult learners, and it happened yesterday was Thursday. Yes, I had a class, and I could tell that half of the class were engaged with what I was teaching, and someone had taken a nap.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It was content I needed to cover. I think what I realised is I'm a perfectionist with my teaching and with everything. I'm sure.
With everything. You're a perfectionist with everything, Amla.
Yeah, but I feel like you can relate in some sense to that.
Definitely.
I had to let go. I feel like I've got to just let down the need to control everything. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that student's having a nap. They could be tired. I don't actually know and they didn't look upset. They were just tired.
Yeah,
and I caught myself immediately wanting to change the situation, and I went, wait a minute, they can just have a nap, and I'll just I just kept going with but occasionally I'll throw in a game.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I ended up doing. I said, all right, we've worked really hard here, your brains are overworked, let's play a game.
Yeah.
And then just bring them back in.
That's a good...
Changing the activity sometimes. Yeah. I mean, how would you deal with
look, I'm looking at it from a different perspective too. Like, different ages, different age groups have different needs or different attention spans. Like, I have kids and I have teenagers and adults. With the kids, you have to be very sporadic. You have to change from here to here to here, and games.
Yes.
Games is a very, very important part, because then all of a sudden their focus is here. They were looking there, if you're teaching them strumming or some sort of scale or some sort of melody, they're just, and then all of a sudden they see a game, it's like, oh, hang on. Especially the ones that like challenges. They go, oh, hang on, I have to focus here because, and there's an incentive at the end and everything like that, and that's all going well. But with older kids or teenagers, you need to be really down their path of what they like.
Exactly. Yeah.
If they like being challenged academically, and they like theory, well then do a bit of that first, and then give them something else. Some don't like theory; they just want to play.
Yep.
So it's I think, and with me, I don't do the classroom thing. I do one-on-one, so I tailor it to every student. But there are challenges in both, and I think the classroom is it's very broad and it's very big, and you've got a bit more challenges in the classroom. But honestly, like, there are some mistakes that teachers make.
Oh yes, I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect.
All right, go for it. Go for it.
Just, I think what I was, especially for the English teaching more recently, I was wanting to fit all of the content in, to fit the curriculum, to fit my curriculum for the year, and I was trying to cram in too much information, and to keep it engaging and interesting, because I had assumed that maybe some of them weren't as engaged or interested. And I let that go the other week, and I just went, okay, less is more. I kept the enthusiasm up, and I did less with them, and they seemed to enjoy it a lot more than me trying to fit in. I think part of me was assuming that some of them weren't enjoying. And again, the English teaching is new for me, so I'm learning on as I go. I'm loving it though, but I think I need to let go of the need to control everything as well.
You're right. And you brought up a very important thing, assuming assumptions. It's a very common thing for someone to do. assume and to think, okay, well, this student needs this to improve or needs that to improve, but whether they want to improve in that area or not, it's a different thing, right? And the assuming is a mistake that I've made of assuming their capabilities and abilities.
That's right. That's right.
Assuming that, so with some students that they're good enough to go to the next level and they're finding it hard. So the assumption is there because you've probably heard something that they're playing or you're on a conversation communication basis. And then you go the other way where you assume that, they're not ready, but yet they come into the next class and they're blitzing everything. So, and then it changes your perception and your planning, I suppose, to the next lesson. And that I've done that mistake where I've planned a lesson for students and all of a sudden you think that they know or that, you think that they like what you're going to present to them to teach. They don't. So the assumption is definitely a big one. So So what do we do to steer away from those assumptions?
Well, look, acknowledging that that's what we're doing is the first step, and sometimes it's hard not to make assumptions when the student is new or you've only had a couple of lessons with them, I guess. But we don't want to fall into that path of making an assumption. I guess again we're just whoops. I guess it's trial and error. Like we're going to make mistakes as teachers as we gauge what level the student or students are at and what they enjoy, whether they're more visual, whether like what you were saying before, how they learn, whether, like you said, if they like the theory, if they want to listen. I have a student who, I didn't know this, it was a mistake I made. I got everyone to do some improv together. I tried to keep it really low key and inclusive. She pulled me aside later on and said, I hated that. She goes, please, never, ever. Like she was really, she likes me, but she just said, please. Like,
she let you know.
And she let me know. She said that just created so much anxiety in her. And I learned so much from that. Don't assume, that was an assumption as well that I kept it low key, but for her, it was triggering.
Yeah. You see, that's the thing. You don't know what a person is thinking, I suppose, and in what state they're in their everyday life.
Exactly. And look, that we are going to make mistakes as teachers.
Oh, definitely will.
I'm still like, we're always learning, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that actually brings me into the next thing. What should students look for in a teacher? Like if they're looking for a music teacher or any teacher, like what should they look for? Because we're talking from a teacher's perspective, but what about from a student's perspective? What should they be looking for? Do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I've started getting lessons from a violin teacher. I guess it depends on what the student, the person, like whether they're an adult looking for beginner lessons or an advanced player like myself looking for improvement in my playing.
Yep.
I call myself advanced. That's cool.
You are. You're more than advanced. You're an expert. So.
Oh, very kind. So in my case, because are we talking about what kind of level are we talking about?
Any level.
Level?
What is expected from a good teacher, I suppose? What should the student look for in a teacher?
It depends on the student because I've come from a classical background. Some students I realise like the traditional teachers who are just really hard with them, and other students really like someone who throws on the compliments. Yeah. And you know, like, oh, that was amazing, that was brilliant, oh, brilliant. Encouragement. And it's nice to have a bit of encouragement. See, I'm a bit of both. So my teacher, again, you won't know for sure until you have a few lessons with the teacher. But my violin teacher, I really like him because he gives compliments sparingly. Yeah. So I know, but then that's my that's from my classical training. Yeah. When he says good, I know that means really good. Yeah. He's also he's strict on me, and he'll go, okay, that wasn't, you need to do that again. Yeah. What was that? You know, he'll go, what was that? I'm like, yeah, sorry.
That's his approach, yeah?
That's his approach, but then in terms of, you want a teacher I guess a teacher who's passionate or compassionate rather. Yeah. Compassionate and patient. I think patience is so important.
I was going to get to that one.
Yeah, patience. I'm happy for you to continue that.
Oh, no, go for it. Yeah. I mean, look, patience is a very, very important thing, right? When you're a teacher.
It's right up the top there.
It's right up the top. You can't, your level of, whether you're teaching an instrument or a language, your level is much further than your students. That's why they're there. So you need to think about that and think about, how am I going to bring this person to that level? But I think the most important thing that a student should look for in a teacher is the communication. You should feel comfortable communicating with your teacher. And I think the teacher needs to make the student aware that they should be comfortable in the environment. They should be at that point to say, you know what, this isn't working for me. Is there another way that you can teach me?
Yes. And
we have to have those other options.
Yeah,
right?
So true.
And that communication and that alignment with your student, it's not, with my students, I don't come across as teacher-student. I come across as, we're collaborating, because for them, it makes it easier to understand. For me, it makes it easier to teach, because even as a teacher, you learn something from a student.
All the time.
Right? So I think that a student should look for a teacher that is communicative, very easygoing, someone who's passionate as much as the student, and just ensure that, and from a teacher's perspective, that you're accountable for teaching this person. So I think that's, and we haven't even gone into the skill set.
No.
Right? So
it's a big topic.
it's a massive topic, and this is the thing where, can a great musician be a great teacher?
Yes.
I don't think that's the case all the time.
I've experienced teachers you learn from it. Growing up, I didn't have a lot of great flute teachers, I'll be honest. There's one or two I remember, and I was I was probably 11, and they were my favorite teacher, and I remember them being so enthusiastic. And the other teachers are brilliant musicians, play in orchestras, amazing players. Couldn't answer a question because I don't want to say a lot of them, this goes into talent as well, how much because a lot of it's natural for some of them. They do a lot of work as well, but there were some questions they couldn't answer that I needed answered in order to improve my technique and playing.
And so it was something where I just do it and I don't know how.
But they couldn't even say that to me and be honest with me. They would say, you should know how to do it. You're at this level now. That's what I got.
I had a very similar experience getting tutored as well.
Yeah.
And what I used to do, I used to intentionally make mistakes and I was never corrected.
So you
this was a journey of mine. So I would intentionally make mistakes and I would not be corrected. So this is the other thing of how, great musician.
Yeah.
But a teacher, not sure. And we strive to be both all the time, right, as artists. But look, no one's perfect.
Yeah, we've all got our flaws.
Yeah, exactly. I think at the end of the day, the teacher and the student connection needs to be always, as you said, enthusiastic, aligned with what they're doing, with what they're learning, with where you're taking them as well, because some students rely on you to lead them.
Oh yes, you've got to give them you've got to give them an indication of where they're going, and even I like to go back to when they first started and see the progress, especially if they don't see the progress. Go, remember when you first started?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is that there are some students that know exactly what they want to.
Yes, they're very clear on their goals.
Yeah,
yes.
And I've got a student who actually gave me a list and point form of what he wanted to learn, what his goals were.
That's amazing.
So that's great. That's fantastic, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm going to treat him any different than my other students, right? So everyone's got a different journey, and we've got a different journey with each student. So we're traveling all these different paths, But I think at the end of the day, and this is what I'm probably going to finish off this episode with, is that I think a teacher needs to be really aware of the student, and a student needs to be aware of the teacher. I think it goes both ways, depending on the age. If it's a kid, the awareness is not going to be as much, but it's your job to actually make sure that they're not only learning, but you're making it fun for them as well with the kids. With
100%. And what you said about it's so important that they feel safe.
Yeah, definitely. The environment. And you got to, with the guitar, it's a bit easier because you can plug them in with an electric and you can give them all these effects, and for the kids, it's fantastic. But at the end of the day, yeah, you're accountable for the students, and you have to make the journey the best possible journey you can for them. And I think when you're down that path, I think musically you'll develop as well.
Oh, definitely. You learn so much about your own playing. Even on that note of teaching, I'll throw this point in quickly. Even just the way, back to the delivery of the content, what I've learned over the years is you don't need to we're not here to give them all the answers. We're here to guide them towards and for them to discover on their own.
Definitely.
We're not, otherwise totally they can just Google it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's spot on, Amla. And on that note, we're going to finish up this episode. Thanks for coming on the podcast, and thanks for being a semi-regular as well.
Oh.
And we're going to have future episodes together. So
this is fun.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So yeah, ciao for now. And if you guys are anyone's interested in music production or guitar lessons or violin lessons and flute lessons or mentoring,
just flute.
musicproservices.com. And see you next time. Ciao.